Hello and welcome to City Strolls, the series which takes your Grecians out around Exeter and glorious Devon to find out a little bit more about them in the beautiful area in which we live. You'll be able to read part of these interviews in the Grecian Matchday programme and then see the rest online shortly afterwards, much as you're doing right now. Today we've taken a stroll down to Topsham to meet Abbie Britton, the person behind Exeter City women's team, to get to know her a little bit better and find out a bit more about her career. Without further ado, let's get into it. Abbie, everyone knows you as the manager of Exeter City Women, but I want to take you back to the start. How did your football journey begin? When did you first kick a ball around?
So I started playing football for the local indoor team back in Bristol, where I'm from. Keynsham Town was my first ever team. We played indoors at the time, and it kind of just ignited my love for football, really. Older brother and sister that loved it as well, so many a times in the garden just playing, and kind of the love for the game just went from there, really.
Did you have any early inspirations?
I was a big Bristol City fan, so my stepdad used to take me to regular games. I had a season ticket there. I used to just love the whole day, everything about it, from getting up in the morning to putting the kit on to going to watch, having a kick around after the game whilst waiting for dad in the pub, and yeah, it was just amazing days out.
And then you started playing football at a senior level, I think, while you were at college. Was it Hilton College?
Yeah, so I went to Hilton College and studied a BTEC there, and played football alongside it, and it was a great experience. Able to play football 5 times a week as well, which was brilliant, and had a great partnership with Bristol Academy at the time as well, so it's enabled me to get into senior football that way as well.
Now, there's not a lot about your career online, so I want this section to be a bit of a Wikipedia about you almost. So you had a few years out of the game, and then you went to Swansea, where you played a little bit in Europe. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I took some time out after I left Bristol, just for myself, and just kind of had a bit of downtime, and then got back into the game when I played for Swansea. As you said, we were lucky enough that year to win the Welsh Premier League, and we went on to qualify for Europe. So we had the UEFA Champions League qualifying rounds out in Cyprus at the time, which is an incredible occasion. It took, great eye-opener to professionalism in the game. Played some on the wrong end of some heavy score lines in those, but we had a positive one out there, and again, just fantastic memories that will, I'll cherish forever and live with me forever. But yeah, great opportunity to play in the Champions League.
What was it like lining up and hearing the Champions League anthem? That must have been spine-tingling.
It literally is, yeah. Like, it's pinch me moments, it's moments you dream of, and you see on the telly and you think, I've done that, and it's an incredible feeling to know you've done. Shame that it was only the one-time opportunity. I'd have loved another opportunity at playing there, and maybe even progressing my playing career further. But yeah, I can't argue with the career that I've had in the coaching game so far.
You did then go across to Cardiff, who are now Gwalior in the same league as us, where you got to a Premier League Cup final, and you even scored a bit of a worldie, and I think the year before against Coventry.
I did, yeah. I think that's probably the only story that's online. It's probably one of my very, very few goals that I did score. Then the manager went across to Cardiff. Good friend of mine and a mentor of mine still now, Gary Green, and he asked me to come along to Cardiff, where again played with some incredibly talented players that are still now playing in the game. So and yeah, we had a great season that year. I think we finished sort of top end of the league, but lost to Spurs in that cup final, and then you look at what Spurs have gone on to do now, and it makes you think, what if that was us that was on the right side of that result that day. But yeah, an incredible achievement for us as a club to get that far when you think of the constraints that we were under, the financials, and what Spurs had. So it was a great occasion.
And what type of player were you on the pitch? If I was to go back and ask you to describe yourself as a player, imagine you're a new transfer, what would you say?
Well, what I say and what my manager might say are different things. But I was a defender, used to play in the midfield, but as I got a little bit older, dropped back into defence. I'd like to say my range of passing and my vision was probably my skill set, and the fact that I would kind of always always look to never give up. That was my big thing. Never give up attitude. Always going to the final whistle. So yeah, those would be my strengths, I'd say.
Is that why they probably made you captain then at Cardiff? That sort of attitude?
Yeah, maybe, and the communication skills. I'd like to say that I try to do my best to always organise, or always implement the manager's game plan however I could. Best I could, or affect the game, whether or not vocally, whether or not that was through leading, like I said, vocally or playing. Yeah, I was always trying my best to give the manager's message across all the time.
So while you're at Cardiff and Swansea and your other clubs, you're obviously a part-time player and you had a job alongside that. How hard was it to balance playing at the top level and then working at the same time?
Yeah, really difficult. I was actually living in Exeter at the time when I was playing for Cardiff, so had that 2.5 hour drive up to Cardiff every Tuesday and Thursday night as well, sitting in traffic and finishing work, having to take something to eat on the way up, getting changed in the car sometimes as well. So it's really difficult to find that balance and to get it right. It is hard, and it's something that I think that I try and sympathise with our players a lot with now. And I say I've used my experiences well to help the girls. But it is incredibly difficult. You're getting home midnight, later some nights, and then you've got to shower, eat, get to bed, ready for work the next day, and that toll and that demand mentally is a lot harder than people probably think it is physically. So yeah, it's a really big ask, I think.
Now, after Cardiff, you dropped down to Exeter City, which some might see as a bit of a drop, but it did come after quite a big injury for yourself.
Yeah, so in the final day of the season for Cardiff, I broke my leg, unfortunately, early in the game. So spent the next sort of 7 months, I think it was, in recovery, and decided that travelling up to Cardiff 2-3 hours and every other night wasn't for me. And the manager had left, and I was fond of him, so I decided to hang it up, almost hang my boots up, and kind of took a little back seat. And then the opportunity to play for Exeter City came up, and like I said, I was living down here. It was finally football on the doorstep. Yes, it was a couple of leagues below what I had played, but I felt that they were building something here that I would like to have been a part of, and turned out to be a great decision.
So yeah, like you said, you joined just after the club got relegated to the 5th tier there. Did you see that then as sort of a clean slate almost to build on?
Yeah, definitely. There was players at the club that had such good potential, and I felt that the club had really good ties with the community trust had great ties with the club at the time, and I thought that it could be a great opportunity for me to hone in on my coaching skills as well, give me an opportunity to get back playing football after such a bad injury, and yeah, it was a perfect fit for everybody really. What
motivated you to become a coach? Do you think it was the same sort of leadership attributes?
Yeah, I think so, and I think the injury when you sat on the sideline watching for so long, and you're seeing how people are playing week in, week out, and it's kind of giving you that sort of, you find yourself coaching from the sideline. I thought, maybe I want to give this a go a little bit, and then, as I said, my mentor kind of pushed me into it a little bit and said, give it a go. Exeter had just been relegated, they were looking for a new manager, there was an opportunity available, and yeah, I kind of grabbed it with both hands really.
Now, you mentioned it slightly there, but when you started at Exeter, you were also working for the Community Trust. Can you tell us a little bit about what you did there?
Yeah, so I worked for the Community Trust. I was a sports development officer at the time, so that would mean I would sort of create programmes in and around the community, support on programmes that were already fully established. Our Grecian girls at the time, our tot sessions on Saturdays, satellite clubs where we were, partnership and building and skills with the local community. Not just football based, but just getting girls and people into sport and education. So it's a fantastic job what the Community Trust do, and I really do thank them for all the opportunities that they've given me, not just as a football coach, but personally as well. It's I wouldn't be here in Exeter without them, so I owe a lot to Jamie Vittles and the team.
Now, during that time as well, you were co-manager of the club. What's that dynamic like? Because it's not something you see too often in football.
Yeah, it's absolutely fine. Me and Aaron had a great relationship when we were working together. He would often play good cop and I would often play bad cop. And we would help each other, lean on each other in aspects of knowing when to pull those caps on and when to be the good guy and the bad guy. Bounce ideas off each other tactically, what sessions we need to implement. And it just helped having a good friend around to know sort of how to approach difficult times, because it's not always been smooth sailing, and there's been problems and bumps in the road that we've had to get over behind the scenes as well as on the pitch. So yeah, we're really happy with. I was really pleased with how it all went with. Sort of the dynamics of a duo, and thankfully, yeah, it's led me to the opportunity that I've got now.
So what's the biggest difference, apart from not having someone maybe sat next to you as your equal as such? What's the biggest difference of being the sole manager?
Yeah, not a lot's changed really. I still really heavily utilise my coaching staff. I'm talking to them daily. Unfortunately for them, they hate it, I'm sure. I never get a moment's peace because I'm always pestering them about tactics or about things. I'm always bouncing ideas off them. I suppose that the ultimately the decision lies with me, and that's probably the biggest change now. That the accountability is now on me. You know, I take full accountability for performances and how we train. Decision making goes through me. So and I've almost built this squad, so it's all on me this year. There's no one else to turn to should things go well, should things go wrong. You know, it's just that sole accountability is mine now.
I want a simple yes or no answer. Should there be more than one promotion spot?
Yes, there should be. I think the quality in football and the recent history of the league finishings will show you that both the southern and the northern teams, there's a clear disparity between the top four and the rest, and that gap bridge needs to be gapped. We need to look at getting more teams into the championship. It makes it a more competitive league, and it then bridges that gap from the WSL down to the championship, which is a huge gulf at this current moment, in my opinion. And then when relegated teams come down to the championship, as you're seeing this year, relegated championship comes coming to tier 4, tier 3 this year. You're seeing that tier 3 teams can compete and beat them. So that gap isn't as big as maybe the leagues think, and we should have more teams going up. So yeah, to answer your question, yes.
Now, I think many City fans will probably know why I'm asking this question specifically, but the last 2 seasons for City, I mean, just pipping Bournemouth to the top, and then before that losing out to Cardiff on goal difference only shows the quality that is in that tier below us.
Absolutely, yeah. I think tier 4 is an incredibly difficult tier. I think you only realise that when you've been in it, and I think you can only really truly understand how difficult it is when you're going to those places and you're playing on not so great facilities and pitches, and you're having to try and adapt your football style to manage to stay unbeaten and to go up. It's incredibly difficult. One slight slip could be the end of your title push. So it's an incredibly tough league, yeah.
How did it feel then that season ending in 2023 to just lose out to Cardiff on goal difference?
Yeah, it was heartbreaking. I think there was many of us that shed a tear that day because we knew how close we were, but realistically over the course of the whole season we probably weren't good enough, but we had spells and we had moments where, you know, we went on that incredible run just after Christmas, and it was almost like, is it going to be, you know? And it's those runs that football managers dream of, because we went 12 unbeaten and it was a case of, this is it, this is promotion form. But unfortunately for us, we just couldn't get over the line. We had that disappointing result down at Bournemouth, which ultimately cost us. But to have that experience in our locker, so to speak, in the back of our minds when we went into last season's campaign, it was always going to spur us on. The girls came back so hungry in pre-season with the knowing of the disappointment and never wanting to feel that again. So it was almost, it's difficult to explain, but it's almost like a good way to end the season, because it really did ignite something inside of us.
Now, that ignition ultimately led to that final day of the season against Bournemouth. What were you feeling in the run-up to that game?
I was really excited, if I'm being honest. I knew that it was going to be a good game of football, because both teams are, you know, their records speak for themselves. You know, Bournemouth are a fantastic team, got a great setup down there. We were under no illusions that it was going to be difficult. We needed to treat it like a cup final, because that's what it was, essentially. Winning team took the glory, essentially. thankfully for us, we didn't need to consider winning the game. We just knew we didn't need to lose it. And we went into the week knowing that. We prepared the girls for every eventuality. We trained with 10 players against 11 to try and replicate. Maybe we get a man sent off. Maybe we go down a goal early doors, which we did. How would we respond? How would we react? So it was a good week's preparation, and and then well into the weekend. Kind of. Sometimes every now and again I catch myself looking back at the moments on Instagram, to the goal, to the celebrations afterwards, and just incredibly proud and happy moments, really.
That must have been some night celebration afterwards.
It was a great night out, I must admit. I don't remember an awful lot. I had a terrible hangover for the next couple of days, but it was all worth it.
Now we take ourselves to the present day. How have you adapted personally as a coach? Have you changed any of your methods to the new division, or is it just the thing of growing slowly and incrementally?
Yeah, I've had to change. I'm always big on feedback. I like the girls to be really honest with me and tell me what they've enjoyed and not enjoyed from the last season. So I tend to get their feedback. They want a more honest coach. They want somebody to be really, and when I say honest, I mean honest as in not just, oh, you're not playing today, but honest in what went well, what didn't go well, and be quite brutal with the feedback. We don't get a lot of time with these girls, so making the most of the time that we do have, I need to utilise it. So I pride myself on trying to be as honest as I can to these girls, and sometimes that's really difficult because I don't want to have conflict. I don't like conflict as a person, but I know that it's healthy and it's needed for us to grow. As you know, I'm quite a loud manager on the sideline. I like to scream and shout a lot and try and get my message across. But I am actually trying hard to let the girls play the game as they see it in those moments. So I'm trying hard to refrain from getting too much information across. And so I'm learning as I go. I've got a different backroom team this year. They almost do a lot of the talking for me as well. So it's nice to kind of step back and just have a look at a picture from a different angle. I think the more eyes we've got on different angles, the better that we can be. I'm learning all the time. I'm by far no means the finished article. I know I've got a lot of work to do to get to where I want to be, and to where I want to take this team. So I'm excited for what the season holds, but equally excited for what the future holds as well.
Can you talk us through your backroom staff a minute? Because I think there's a few faces in there some City fans might recognise.
Yeah, I think the big one that all the fans will like is obviously Craig Woodman is with us now. Fortunate that I've known Craig for an awful long time. He's my brother-in-law, so we've had many football conversations over the past. And it was a conversation that I had with him in pre-season when I knew I needed to bring in a new coach. I asked him if he would be interested, and he was, luckily for me. He's obviously, people will often say Craig's very quiet, very reserved, will not say an awful lot, but he's extremely passionate about football. He knows his stuff. I mean, you don't play over 500 league appearances in the EFL to not know what you're talking about. So he's come in and he's added that professionalism, he's added that reassurance to girls on knowing what to do in certain situations and how to adapt to things. His positional awareness for our wing backs is something that we've utilised really well, and without the ball, he's just defensive knowledge for our back line and our team actually is come on so much. We've also then got George Robinson, who's an ex-City player as well. People might not know him so much, but he was on the books at City a long time ago, youth player. He's our strength and conditioning and our assistant manager. And again, he's another person that's really passionate and tactical and really thinks about the smaller details, which, like I said, allows me to step back and kind of focus on the broader picture. And maybe it's a pep talk that some players need. Maybe it's an arm around the shoulder. Maybe it's a bit more of a rocket, and I can leave those two to kind of concentrate more on the smaller technical and tactical details of things, which is a great blend to have. Any manager would tell you they're nothing without the team that is behind them. And then obviously I've got Ollie, who does all our analysis, and our sports scientists, Vanessa and Ben in our physio team. And then we've got Dave Gribble, who sorts everything out off the pitch for us. We've got George, he's our goalkeeping coach. So, you know, I've got an incredible staff behind me, and anything that we do is for them. You know, everything we do is for them. They don't get the joy in playing every week, so they get the joy in trying to help and put together a successful team, and thankfully that's what we've been for the last few years.
You spoke about that last few years. You've been at City now for 8 years. What do you think the future is for Exeter women? Have you set yourself any long-term goals?
We want to be a very good Tier 3 team. We don't just want to be here as a one-hit wonder. I think our start in this season has shown that we're more than capable of competing at this level. I don't see any reason why this football club couldn't be a championship club. You know, whether or not we need to put a time frame on it or not, we don't, I don't think. But this has the structure, the surroundings, the players, the buy-in from the club, from the fans, that this is a ready-made championship club. We just need to get there in the right way. I'm a firm believer in that everything needs to be done properly behind the scenes before you can progress on the pitch, and that's shown over our last few seasons. You know, we've built slowly and made sure things are done properly. We bring through our academy players that have taster at football, and they're a core of our team. So it's important for Exeter City to have that homegrown, not just in the women's team, in the men's is rife. You know, the academy players that have come through and gone on to great things. We're firm believers in the same thing, and I want a championship club full of academy players, just as Gary does. But we've got to do it in the right way. We've got to take small steps. We've got to approach it in the right manner and respect the leagues, because football is a brutal game.
Nice one. Well, thank you, Abbie, for joining me on a City Stroll.